Well, good evening, everybody. We are back from San Diego and our Cruising Through COVID tour. Wanted to just take a few minutes and talk about. As soon as I got back to Vegas, we went to dinner down the street at our favorite bar and grill. For those of you that are listening from Vegas, go check out the team at Zest. Donna and all have done a brilliant job of executing every expectation standard of the local restaurant industry to a T, and frankly, really excited to have a very trustworthy local establishment to go to. So we went back to Zest for some dinner tonight, and then I wanted to, if you haven't seen all the videos, wanted to catch you up that over the last, I would say, week and a half, I have now visited 10 plus casinos, resorts, businesses, at least 10 casinos and resorts alone, on top of other small businesses, restaurants, others that have opened through COVID. So through 3 different states and expectations and sets of criteria. So I would say I feel I've got a good lens on some of the things that are consistent, some areas that are consistent challenge areas. But I wanted to come back and quickly, since I missed the Las Vegas opening and spent some time in San Diego, wanted to go to a local establishment close to the house and just see for myself what Vegas has done to knock this out of the park and reopen. And as I've tried to keep a very positive tone over the course of the last week, especially highlighting some local businesses in San Diego, I'll be very frank with you. I am a little concerned about our local engagements here in Las Vegas. I believe that what I saw tonight, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. And I think it's important to just take a moment and remember that if the local organizations here in town are not knocking this out of the park, and frankly, every interview I've done, I asked, what is the one piece of advice that you would have for your colleagues that are just doing this or have done this or preparing to do this? It's consistency. It's when you think you've done enough, you haven't done enough, or when you think you've done too much, it's probably still not enough. That leads me into, I visited the South Point Hotel and Casino tonight. It's close to where I live. It's a place that me and my family have gone to on multiple occasions, frankly, weekly through our time on this side of town. So let me start just with some very factual presentation of some photos, some observations I had, and then end with a little bit of commentary around this. So you'll see here, as soon as you walk up at the South Point, they are doing valet, which those of you that have followed this video series in Arizona, California, you would not see this. So valet has been closed at a lot of casinos and resorts, frankly, every single one that I've been to, and again, in 3 different states. So this kind of got me a little concerned out of the gate, knowing that now having perspective and a viewpoint in 3 different states, that this is not happening. I went in, again, with an open mind, but first impression was a little concerned. Next, you'll notice I walked by a bank, several banks, frankly. This was just one of slot machines where all machines were on in a row with no plexiglass, no protective coverings, no social distancing, markers, anything, frankly, at all. Which again, now my sense of concern was slightly a bit more elevated. I will give them kudos. The one place that I did see in the casino where there was plexiglass partitions was the loyalty desk, and you'll see that photo right here. They did have, again, the plexiglass separating you and the employee. However, consistency is something that's going to be very important. So while walking up and observing the loyalty desk here, they did have individually wrapped pens, which I thought was, again, great job, really awesome. Literally, instead of being handed a pen cup where you can choose a pen, who knows who's touched it and who's cleaned it beforehand, you get your own pen that is clean and secure. When I walked by, and I did this on purpose, walked by 2 of the casino bars on the floor, they're just handing customers random pens, one just signed, moving it over to another. So again, consistency is a critical issue in the eye of your consumer. So if you're offering individually wrapped pens at the loyalty desk, but then at the bar, it's a free-for-all, that's going to cause concern. And frankly, for those that have been in high-risk populations, those that have been heavily impacted by COVID's impacts, I would imagine that would be one thing that would keep them from coming back, knowing that there's an inconsistent practice. I did have the chance to, I purposely sat down at a table game to understand, because I've gone into a lot of robust conversations with dealers and casino leaders about what are they doing to clean, sanitize, what game rules have changed. So here's the photo walking into the table games area of the casino, and what you'll notice here again was a bit concerning to me. Again, having visited 10 plus casinos and resorts in 3 states, no plexiglass, no dividers, no partitions, nothing separating someone from sitting next to you, and frankly, inconsistency on how many people are sitting at a table at one time. So I'll touch more on this in a second. The other observation, so I sat down at a table, I was talking with the dealer a little bit, and again, having talked to dealers at other casinos in other states, you've seen things such as the cut card being restricted from the customer touching it. You've seen the customer not being able to touch cards on majority of games. However, here is a completely different story. Blackjack in California and Arizona, you would not be allowed to touch the cards, just from a sanitation perspective. Blackjack here, they're dealing the cards, they weren't touching the cards, you could touch the cut card. 3-card poker, 2 other states, can't touch the cards. Here they're actually handing the cards to the customers to touch, and then putting the deck back into the shuffler, not sanitizing, burning the deck in between. I would say the table games experience to me, again, a little concerning and a lot of area of opportunity to build consumer confidence and trust. Asked about how cards are getting sanitized, the answer from one of the dealers, frankly, was, well, they just go through the normal rotation and they're changed out multiple times a day. That's no different than before casinos had to reevaluate the COVID expectation. You see some casinos are burning PyGo cards every hand through COVID. You see casinos not allowing the customer to touch the cards through COVID. But here was a completely different experience. And again, that was a little concerning. No one could answer, frankly, when I asked how the chips are getting cleaned, what that looks like, or how the cut cards are getting sanitized when multiple customers at one table are touching that same card. Couldn't answer it. I will give one kudo, because I do believe in highlighting, or this will be the second one, highlighting positive things. There were sanitation, hand sanitizer stations, either the automatic dispensers or wipes in between every other table. So you could do that. So thankfully I was sitting on an end that I could constantly keep sanitizing my hand, knowing that this was happening. Less than half of the casino floor was wearing a mask. And I just left California, where you have to be wearing a mask in a casino unless you are eating, drinking, or smoking actively. So again, here, complete culture shock for me now. And actually Arizona was the same in 2 states, to just freely be walking around without a mask and no real focus on that. So I guess my overall message here, we've talked about consistency being important. We've talked about leaders who've been open for over 3 weeks saying their greatest advice is, if you think you're doing too much, you're not doing enough. My biggest concern as a very passionate Las Vegas resident, I love my town, I love my city, and I know the impact that these businesses have on not just my colleagues, my friends, my neighbors, but those that can't wait to come back. If we don't knock this out of the park and we don't go over the edge, especially at establishments that cater to a local market, the second we start to see our results going in a negative fashion in regards to additional transmissions and spread of the virus, it hurts all of us, right? It hurts the entire city, it hurts the entire town. I just frankly can't imagine sitting and going back into how many months of quarantine because we just didn't do 1 or 2 extra things the right way to make sure we were doing our due diligence. We all at this time have to do our part to prevent a spike, a second instance of what's going on. So again, there's some warnings here. And again, this is meant to be for those that have already opened. I know there's many states that have not reopened yet. Or if you've newly opened, now is the time to gut check and really make sure and double check and think and ask ourselves, have we done enough? And if you don't know the answer to that question, frankly, ask your customers. Because if you have simply a large portion of your customers who would say, hey, this is inconsistent, I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable, that means that's probably something that should be approached, because there's probably many more than just a couple that you've asked that feel that same way. So again, take this for what it is. Trying to stay positive again this week, but again, this was very eye-opening for me, and again, a lot of opportunity. Later this week, excited to announce we'll be heading off to Los Angeles. We're going to dive into talking to some folks who run properties out there who have not opened yet, what they're anticipating, what they're hearing, what they're ready for, what they'll be doing pre-opening, and give you a little bit of a lay of the landscape in yet another city. So thank you for tuning in to our Cruising Through COVID series. Really appreciate your continued participation, following along. Gotten some great comments about things that you've taken from this. So again, join us later this week as we head back on the road, as we cruise through COVID, to provide you some really great insights, learnings, and opportunities as we all work together to bring the world back into a normal place. Have a great night, everybody.